All praise to the Most High, AHAYAH, and to his son, AHAYAH'S. Hallelujah. This is Brother Holly here with the first Spirit of Truth broadcast here on the AHAYAH'S channel, as well as the House of AHAYAH channel on this set apart Sabbath day. First and foremost, as always, I give all glory, praise, and honor to the great I am, he who is, was, and is to come, the Almighty One. Hallelujah. And to his son, AHAYAH'S, who gave himself for us that we might have life, and that life is in him. Hallelujah. Now, in the first broadcast, we're going to look at how the nations other than the children of Jacob have been given over to idolatry. That's their heritage. That's their religion. That's their belief system. And that those idols that they are worshiping are actually devils. And those devils were assigned to them by AHAYAH to lead them astray, to keep them from him. Oh, praises. If it's not brutally clear to you by now that the Most High, the great I am, has only called one group of people unto himself, that would be the children of Jacob, it will be more and more clear to you after this first broadcast. All praises to AHAYAH. We'll be reading from the AHAYAH, King James Version, Bible Apocrypha, Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees. And if you don't have this little booklet, I suggest you get it. It's rather affordable. And from the Learn Paleo Hebrew Torah, Lashon Kodash, Holy Tongue, Yasha Bible Scriptures. We'll be reading Jubilees chapter 15, and in this particular rendition of the scriptures, the book of Jubilees doesn't have any verse numbers. So if you have another copy of the book of Jubilees in another setting, you'll just have to kind of look into it rather quickly to find where I'm reading from in Jubilees 15. But once you lock in, we'll just keep it going, and hopefully you'll be able to keep up all praises. Jubilees chapter 15, let's start reading. It says, "This law," speaking of circumcision, "is for all generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, no omission of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets." You say, "Brother Holly, why are you talking about circumcision? I thought you were going to talk about idolatry." We will get to it in a moment. But we got to lay the groundwork. Context matters, children. So let's continue. I'll read it again. Jubilees 15. "This law is for all generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, and no omission of one day out of the 8 days." You got to do circumcision on the 8th day, as according to the scriptures. "For it is an eternal ordinance, ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. And everyone that is born, the flesh of the foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to the children of the covenant which AHAYAH made with Abraham." Will you highlight? If a male child is born and you do not circumcise him on the 8th day, he doesn't belong to the covenant. Wow. Be careful, children. Be careful with your children and with your grandchildren and with your great-grands. Be careful to follow the word of AHAYAH closely. I'll read it again. "And everyone that is born, the flesh of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to the children of the covenant which AHAYAH made with Abraham, but to the children of destruction. Nor is there moreover any sign on him that he is AHAYAH'S, but he is destined to be destroyed." Wow. "And slain from the earth, and to be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of AHAYAH our power." Wow. Again, we ain't talking about circumcision, but circumcision is utterly important. That is done in accordance with the scripture. You don't want to cut somebody off before they even get started. You want them to have that mark on them, that they belong to AHAYAH. that they are compliant with his covenant. All praises. I'm so thankful for my parents. They took care of me. For all the angels, next verse, for all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation. And before the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification, he hath sanctified Yasharal, that they should be with him and with his holy angels. We're the only people that have been sanctified or set apart to be with Ahiah and with his holy angels. And do thou command the children of Yasharallah, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance. And they will not be rooted out of the land, for the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among the children of Yasharallah. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, Ahiah did not cause to approach him. Ahiah didn't call Ishmael. Ahiah didn't call Esau or their children. He only called Jacob. I'll read it again. For Ishmael and his sons, this is Jubilees chapter 15. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, Ahiah did not cause to approach him. And he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them. But he chose Yasharal to be his people, and he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are many nations and many people, and all are his. And over all hath he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. Will you highlight? This is the point I was trying to make. It says right here that many people and many nations, and Ahiah has appointed evil spirits over them to lead them astray. We're going to read from Torah that Ahiah has given the nations over to the worship of idols, and we're going to read from the epistles of Paul that behind every one of those idols is a devil. And we're not to partake with idols because we're partaking with devils when we do. It's for the other nations to partake with the devils. It's for the other nations to worship idols. Why? Because an evil spirit has been appointed over them to lead them astray, to lead them away from Ahiah, not to him. I'll read it again. Jubilees chapter 15. And he sanctified it, speaking of Yasharallah, and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his. And over all hath he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. But over Yasharal he did not appoint any angel or spirit. Will you highlight? For he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his and he may be theirs from henceforth forever. We highlight, underline, and put a circle around it. There's only one group of people on the planet that belong to Ahiah, and Ahiah belong to them. That would be the child of Jacob, the children of Jacob. That's it. This is why they don't want you reading Jubilees. Because it just separates you, child of Jacob, from the rest of the nations. It makes it clear. The rest of the nations got evil spirits over them. We don't have that. The rest of the nations are being led away from Ahiah. We are Ahiah's people. He has come to redeem us. And now next verse, and now I announce unto thee that the children of Yasharal will not keep true to this ordinance, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this law. For in the flesh of their circumcision they will omit the circumcision of their sons, and all of them sons of error. They will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from Ahiah against the children of Yasharal, because they have forsaken his covenant, and turned aside from his word, and provoked and blasphemed, insomuch as they do not observe the ordinance of this law. For they have treated their members like the Gentiles, underline, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land, and there will no more be pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sin of this eternal era. If you leave your children uncircumcised, or you don't circumcise them on the 8th day in accordance with the covenant, you are going to have wrath poured out on your child of Jacob. If you obey this ordinance, then the promise that you won't be led astray by some evil spirit will be upon you. He promised that he won't treat you like he treat everybody else. Everybody else, we just read, everybody else has an evil spirit above them. Everybody else is being led away from AHAYAH. They're being led to idolatry. And we're going to read from Torah that AHAYAH is giving the nations over to idolatry, to worshiping the creation, what they can see. But you don't have this issue, child of Jacob. I don't have this issue as a son of Jacob that was circumcised on the 8th day according to the Torah. I bear in my own flesh the mark of the covenant. Oh, praises. That's why it's so easy for me to come to this. So easy for me to follow it. AHAYAH has poured out his spirit upon me, that I may keep the whole, all that is written therein. Oh, praises. All right. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4. Let's start reading at verse 14. Deuteronomy 4:14. And AHAYAH commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land whether you go over to possess it. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that AHAYAH spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. What's he talking about? Don't let the movies mess you up. When the Most High, the great I Am, spoke the 10 Commandments, all Yasharallah heard it. See, in that movie, the 10 Commandments, you got Moses up there, Charlton Heston up there, getting tables of stone. And that did happen. That happened in the second giving of the commandments. If you remember from Exodus, there was 2 giving of the 10 commandments. Why? Because Moses broke the first table stone. But he spoke it into their hearing initially. I'll read it again. Deuteronomy chapter 4:15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that AHAYAH spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast, verse 17, that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, verse 18, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. Lest thou lift up, here's the key verse, lest thou lift up thy eyes unto the heaven, and when thou seest the sun, and the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, should be driven to worship them and serve them, which AHAYAH the Elohim hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. Will you highlight? AHAYAH gave the worship of the star and moon, the worship of creeping things, the worship of males and females, the worship of all things to the nations. It's for the nations to worship that. For the nation to worship the moon. Every Muslim on the planet is a moon worshiper. Why do you say that, Brother Holly? Because the name of their deity is the moon deity of the desert people, of the desert Arabs. That's his name. Inside the Kabbalah in Mecca, I have it on good report. I was in the country for 2.5 years. I have it on good report that there were 300 idols in the Kabbalah. And one idol in there is one that got a little crescent moon above his head. His name is the name they use for their deity that they worship. And in that Kabbalah cube is a black stone, the rock in the box. Every Muslim on the planet turns to the rock in the box and prays 5 times a day. If they're a good Muslim. They're idolaters. Just like the Jewish people are idolaters. They're wall worshippers. They worship the works of man's hands. They go to a wall and bow before it, put prayers in it. You've seen it. Nothing but a bunch of idolaters. It's given unto them to be idolaters. I'll read it one more time. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 19. Lest thou lift up thy eyes unto the heaven, when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of the heaven, should be driven to worship them and to serve them, which Ahai thy AHAYAH'S have divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But Ahai have taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as it is this day with Yahweh. The nations were given to worship the stars of heaven, works of wood and stone, beasts, the similitude of fish, the similitude of fowl, people. Not us. We've been given the worship of the one true Most High Power. Ahai is his name. All praises. Turn me to 1 Corinthians. We're almost done, children. Thank you for your patience. First Corinthians chapter 10. Let's start reading at verse 14. It says, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. 1 Corinthians 10:14. It says, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as unto wise men, judge ye what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Messiah? And the bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Messiah? For we, being many, are one bread and one body. For we are all partakers of that one bread. Highlight. Verse 18, behold Yasharallah after the flesh. Who is the one bread and the one body? Yasharallah after the flesh. I'll say it one more time for clarity. Who, according to this scripture, is the one body and the one bread of Yeshua? Oh, Yahayashah. Who? Who is that? I'll read verse 17, 18 again. For we being many are one bread and one body. For we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Yasharallah after the flesh. Are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar? Yeah, aren't those who eat of the sacrifice partake of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice. Okay, we're talking about two different people here. We're talking about the sacrifice of the one bread and one body, the children of Yasharallah after the flesh, and now we're talking about the other nations. We're talking about what they are offering. We read about what they are offering, what they've been given to worship in Deuteronomy, and we know why they worship these things from Jubilees 15. And we're going to read it here. 1 Corinthians 10:20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to AHAYAH. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink the cup of AHAYAH and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of AHAYAH'S table and the tables of devils. Do we provoke AHAYAH to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? The answer is quite simple, no. I want you to see it. What does it say in verse 19, 1 Corinthians 10:19? But what say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything. So when you see these Gentiles worshiping their idols, worshiping the works of men's hands, bowing to a rock in the box, bowing to a wall, bowing to a Christmas tree, bowing to a nativity scene, bowing to the era of the wooden cross, bowing to it all. When you see them doing that, know in fact that behind every one of those idols is a devil. Verse 20, but I say, 1 Corinthians 10:20, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to AHAYAH. And I would not that you have fellowship with devils. Me too. I would not you have fellowship with devils either. Don't you dare, as a child of Jacob, bow your knee to a wooden cross, or a wooden altar, or a nativity scene, or a Christmas tree. Don't you dare, as a child of Jacob, turn to the east and bow your knee to the rising of the sun. Don't you dare, as a child of Jacob, bow your knee to a rock in the box. Don't you dare, as a child of Jacob, lift up your hands to the stars and the moon. For we serve the one true and living Elohim. AHAYAH is his name, and the name of his son is AHAYAH'S. All praise to the Most High, AHAYAH, and to his son, AHAYAH'S. Alleluia.